All right. Here we go, guys and gals. And boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go racing, drivers.
Hello, people of the world. It is the Loose Wheel podcast, I think episode 23 of the season. I'm Andrew Hazlett, as always, Ethan Ignatowski there.
Hello.
So, before we start, I want to preface this by saying that Ethan came to Phoenix.
Unforeseen circumstances led me back to the Valley of the Sun.
Yep.
Is
And
that a nickname for Phoenix?
What?
The Valley.
Yeah, the Valley. Yeah, another name for Phoenix. You came in. We spent the afternoon together yesterday, which including recording of this podcast. That was Tuesday. Today's now Wednesday. However, when we went to Cronkite, recorded our podcast, the computer that we recorded on just wanted to give us the wheel of death and give us nothing. We looked at the other computers. They were working fine. Yay. So Cronkite computer and Edit Bay E on the third floor, you get one of the 2 chicken awards.
I think it was 320E. So, yeah, but the short of it is now we are re-recording this episode. I had to fly back to the Bay Area. So we are now recording this, like Andrew said, the next day online, which does not produce as good episodes as in person, unfortunately, because that was like such an amazing episode. It's just the connection with the co-host is so much better in person. But since we already basically had an entire practice run of this episode, hopefully it is still a very good episode for you guys.
I hope so, because that was perfect. Just perfect.
And now for last week's race reviews.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get into the reviews. Road America happened. Let's start off. You had a turn 1 incident. Linus Lundqvist had his first pole. His teammate Marcus Armstrong qualified second, and they said, Armstrong said, nah, we're not going to run 1-2 this race any longer, because he just spun his teammate Lundqvist, and their races were ruined. And as well as Herta got spun from Newgarden, who right behind him, and an avoidance. And then in Rahal went wide from contact from Luca Giotto. That took all those guys out of contention except for Newgarden, who didn't get a penalty, which he probably should have, but
I'd say 50-50.
It's a debatable thing. Colton Herta thinks otherwise. He said some pretty choice words. Some say it was off the record. Some say it was on the record, depending on which journalist you ask. That wasn't the person interviewing, which is interesting. Yeah. Herta being himself adding him to the long list of IndyCar drivers saying not nice things, to put it nicely.
Yeah.
Herta, Lundqvist, and Rahal all had good drives. Good recovery drives. They were in the 20s, and they eventually got up to the low teens or cracked the top 10. Herta possibly could have contended for the win. When he might have had the best car all day, but who knows? In the fracas, Kyle Kirkwood, he got himself to the lead, but Scott McLaughlin took the lead on the lap 4 restart, and immediately after, debris caution from Colton Herta on his car, and shortly thereafter, as the caution was coming, Herta spun from contact from Lundqvist. Then they gave penalties for Armstrong and Giotto for the lap 1 incident. Lap 6 restart, McLaughlin holds lead. Stingray Robb misses a corner forcing Felix Rosenqvist off wide. neither driver was able to recover from that. Then in the same lap, Kiffin Simpson got spun by Christian Rasmussen. Where they were both running top 10, which was a surprise, but terrible move by Rasmussen. He started to go right, and then he went left, but he was nowhere close to clearing Simpson with this move. So just terrible. Rob had his penalty, let 7 positions for avoidable contact. McLaughlin holding the lead on the lap 10 restart. At this point, Rasmussen had a stop and go for avoidable contact. And it was a cycle of green flag pit stops. McLaughlin and Newgarden having a close battle with McLaughlin holding the lead. Newgarden tried to undercut him. And then they're halfway through this run of green flag, the next run of green flag running. Dixon was slow and pitted due to blistering on his tires. He was the 4th of 5 Ganassi cars to have issues that race. Yikes. Bad day for Ganassi. Fast forwarding through the run, green flag pit stops happen again. McLaughlin, Newgarden have a close battle. Newgarden undercutting. McLaughlin retains the lead. Newgarden passed McLaughlin on to lead on lap 36 at this point because he had the preferred tires. So it was a hard race for once, and McLaughlin was doing his stint on the soft tire. I thought they should have done the soft tire on their second stint when they did on the third stint. I don't know if it would have done anything to the results at the end, but I don't know. Something interesting there. After Newgarden had a lead, green flag pit stops cycle again, but this time it was Will Power jumping from third, jumping his 2 teammates via the overcut on the stops, and then Power won. I would give this race 6 out of 10. Just too much. It had a good strategy. It was good running all throughout the field, but nothing memorable in the front. And just the way the cautions fell in the beginning was kind of yeah.
It was kind of a weird one from the start with that lap 1 incident, but yeah, like you said, it wasn't a bad race, just nothing like super special. But for Will Power, it was a huge win because not only was it his first win since 2022
at Detroit,
the good Detroit track.
Yeah, Belle Isle, not the downtown corniness.
So this was his first race win since then. This win puts him in the lead of the IndyCar Championship. It's his 42nd career win, which ties him with Michael Andretti for 4th all time. So historic for him, and honestly, just a feel-good moment with everything that happened with his family. Like, his wife was super sick last year, and he admitted that really got in his head last year. And nice that this is a step forward in terms of like his positive mindset and all that, I would say.
Yeah. Keep in mind, Power leads the championship, and he had a 10-point penalty for the Penske push-to-pass fiasco earlier. Shows you how great of a season Power was having. I did not expect him to have that good of a season because he just didn't have that. He was starting to fade off in last year, and I thought the fade would continue this year, but no.
Yeah, I mean, 3 seconds and now a win. So, yeah, very good.
Going back to the lap 1 incident, if that doesn't happen, the whole complexion of the race changes. How well do the young Ganassi pair stay ahead? When or if does Colton Herta pass him, or does he have a mistake? Do the Penske cars have their good run? A lot of interesting questions come from that, but I don't think anyone else is going to win outside of those 6 drivers.
Yeah.
And I don't think Armstrong is going to win it either. But Ethan, Formula One race in Canada, I've not watched the race. You're probably mad at me for that.
This race was so amazing. Andrea, I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed because you have to go and watch this race. Like, this race show this to someone that isn't a fan of F1. and they will enjoy it. Honestly, like this race shows everything that F1 can be when it's at its best. Like this race was a solid 8.5, 9 out of 10 for me. Just it had everything. It had great on-track action. It had pit strategies, changing conditions. And it was honestly the whole weekend. Like qualifying was a crazy show. The two Ferraris were knocked out in Q2. Sergio Perez was knocked out in Q1. And George Russell and Max Verstappen set the same exact time for first and second place. The reason that George Russell got pole and Max had to be content with second is because George Russell set the time earlier. So even though they had the exact same qualifying time, George Russell was on pole. That is how the F1 rulebook goes. So going to the race, though, George Russell, he was able to beat Max off the line, held onto that position going into the first corner, and he kept that for a while. But also in that first corner, Pierre Gasly and Sergio Perez made some contact. Perez's weekend, it just kept going downhill. But it wasn't all chaos like that. There was like good chaos as well. K-Mag and Nico Hulkenberg, the two Hosses, they were flying. They were the two cars on wet tires. Everyone else was on inters. The race started in the rain. So Kevin Magnussen, he overtook Lance Stroll, Daniel Ricciardo, Lewis Hamilton, Fernando Alonso, and Oscar Piastri to get all the way up to fourth place. Eventually, he pit on lap 8 when the track was starting to dry. Like I said, changing conditions. The track went from wet to dry, back to wet, back to dry. But on lap 8, the first time it started to dry out, he had a pit stop. It was a bad pit stop. He wouldn't have stayed in fourth place anyway, of course, but that pit stop did kind of ruin his race. For his teammate Nico Hulkenberg, got past the Ferraris, got past Alex Albon, Yuki Tsunoda, Lance Stroll, and Daniel Ricciardo. He also pit and fell out of the points. And then there was kind of not a lot of action for a couple laps, but then very quickly back into action. Lando Norris started to press Max Verstappen for second place. And then eventually on lap 20, the track was continuing to dry. He was able to get past Max. And just one lap later, he passed George Russell right by the wall of champions. George Russell went off track. And when he rejoined, him and Max almost crashed into each other, slowing both the cars down, which allowed Lando to have a pretty sizable lead, and he had the pace to build on it. The McLarens were the fastest car in the drying condition. Oscar Piastri also had pretty good pace. After that, shortly after that, Logan Sargent, he crashed. He had already gone off track earlier in the race, but he crashed into the wall. His rear wing was destroyed. It was very obvious that he would have to retire and there would have to be a safety car to retrieve his car due to where he was stopped on track. But for some reason, yet again, I don't know exactly who is in charge of this decision, but whether it's the stewards or the marshals or race control, I don't know. Whoever is in charge of getting the safety car out there, again, super slow for absolutely no reason. It was obvious from the second the crash happened that there would need to be a safety car, but instead it was just yellow flag for a while, and then they called the safety car. Call the safety car right away. If you need to call a VSC and then decide to do a safety car, at least do that. It was obvious, though, that you couldn't just have a yellow sector of the track and that the car would have to be cleared, that Logan couldn't do anything to get the car out of the way. So I don't understand, because this isn't the first time it's happened and it's affecting the race. You can say, oh, it's just part of racing, and like, yeah, that's true, but you have the ability to let it not affect it. So why not? You know what I mean? But this situation, it giveth and it taketh. It cost Lando the shot at the race win, because when the safety car finally did go out, he had passed the pit entry. It's a similar situation that handed him the win in Miami, and he said as much post-race. He can't be too mad about losing the win in Canada because that's kind of how he won in Miami, but it just seems like it would be so much better if the safety car would just be called out right away. And that's just my opinion. But like I said, Lando, he got screwed a little bit by the safety car. On the restart, it was Max, George, and Lando. I don't know if I mentioned it when I said that Max and George almost crashed into each other, but Max was able to get ahead of George then. And Max and George were on fresh tires. The rest of the field was able to pit. Funny little thing, Charles Leclerc and Ferrari, they tried to go on hards, and then the rain started to come, and so they had to switch back. Great decision by Ferrari there. On lap 31.
Plan C.
Huh?
Plan C.
Plan Z, dude. Like, who knows what Ferrari is on? I thought they fixed their strategy things, and they mostly have under Fred Vasseur, their new team principal. But it was definitely a weekend to forget for Ferrari. This didn't really have a major impact on the race, but I just have to say it. I believe it was lap 31, somewhere around there. Alex Albon made like the greatest pass of all time. There was a car directly in front of him and a car directly to the right of him, and he somehow split them and got ahead of both of them going into that little tiny section, mini section next to the Wall of Champions right before the start-finish straight. Just an amazing move. Just look it up, go watch it, and be amazed, because I don't know how he fit the car there. Andrew, yesterday you said if you no longer go for a gap that doesn't exist, and like, yeah, that's pretty much what it was. Around lap 45, people start to pit again. Lando tries to go long, and him going long actually did make it closer for him to get the lead. He did pit on the right lap, because if he pit a lap earlier, Max would have been far ahead, and if he pit a lap later, Max would have been far ahead, because his new, I believe it was medium tires, would have been warmed up enough by then. So Lando did pit on the perfect lap, and if his tires could have magically warmed up to the level of Max's tires, he would have been in the lead, but it doesn't work like that. He came out, of course, on cold tires, and since Max's tires were already warmer, he had the grip leaving the pit exit area where turn 2 is. Max had the grip, Lando didn't. Max took the lead. So it was Max, Lando, George. George Russell then started to press Lando because, like I said, Lando's didn't have great tire temperature. They started battling. Lando was able to hold him off. And then Sainz and Albon crashed into each other. Both of those guys, they were out of the race. Sergio Perez also crashed into the wall, broke his rear wing. He got a 3-place grid drop because he started driving around the track with a broken wing, which you can't do because the wing could have fallen off onto the track. Red Bull was also fined for that. And about Sainz and Albon, really interesting to note here, might be looking into this a little too much, but Carlos Sainz apologized to Alex Albon and to Williams on social media. Coincidence? I think not. On lap 63, George and Oscar started battling like crazy for third. They were just going insane, and Lewis Hamilton, he kind of took advantage of them just going crazy on each other. He was able to get past both of them. However, George Russell was able to get past Oscar and Lewis to reclaim third on the second to last or last lap of the race. So Max, Lando, George, that's your top 3. It was an amazing race. That recap probably didn't do it justice. Just go watch it. Like, honestly, such an amazing race.
Yeah, you want me to watch it, I probably won't. Sorry, Ethan. Sorry to crush your hopes and dreams.
It's okay.
Anyway, Cup Series race at Sonoma. Just going to mention SVG won the Xfinity race like he did last week at Portland. He did another drift around the tracks style burnout.
Him and Austin Hill's rivalry is the most random, funny thing ever.
Yeah. And, like, I don't know why Austin... well, there's a couple things he has done, but he hasn't... With the NASCAR community just has an immense amount of hatred for Austin Hill. Like,
Yeah.
just for no reason well, there is some reason, but there are plenty of drivers who have done way worse over their careers, and they're like, yeah, we're just gonna hate this guy. So everyone's clowning on Austin Hill like way too much. And yes, he should be clowned on, but like it's a little excessive right now. But yeah, but it's kind of funny and just random and meaningless at the same time. Um, yeah, going to the Cup Series, Sonoma, Joey Logano leads from pole. Denny Hamlin's engine blows up lap 3. Straight out of Impractical Jokers. They're memes because the one that looks like the Cardinals head coach was there giving the command. So yeah.
Mm.
Don't know which one that is, but
Murr, I think.
The bald one.
Yeah. There's so many memes about just like wrecks and things like just look it up. It's
Yeah.
funny.
Just if you search on NASCAR memes on Instagram, you'll probably find some of them.
Yeah,
or Twitter or wherever you like to get your memes. Logano holds the lead on lap 7 restart. Martin Truex Jr. gets spun on lap 8. No caution though. Chastain, he ran wide. Byron ran off the track complaining of blistering, but all those things had no caution for him. But one we did get a caution for was Ty Gibbs hitting the wall lap 15. His day would be over. Some decided to pit, including Logano. This was just a weird strategy race. These people were wanting to do a 3-stop strategy. I think. Actually, no. They would have been 2-stop strategy, but stopping earlier. And then there was 2 that. And then the 2-stop strategy was stopping later. No one would pit under the stage cautions, which is like the most opposite of road course thing ever, because everyone always pits on the cautions or right before. That didn't happen. So that was just weird. Like, I don't know how else to explain it, but like they need to get rid of the stage cautions on road courses again. But anyway, going after Logano's pitting, Reddick got the lead and then held it on the restart. And then Briscoe on lap 19, Briscoe spins Logano and gets clipped by. He got clipped from Logano, and then gets hits from Burton and Stenhouse. Stenhouse spun in avoidance on the lap 19 yellow. Some others pit, but your top cars that have pitted during the race were AJ Allmendinger, Cam Waters, the RCR duo of Austin Dillon and Kyle Busch, and then Josh Berry as well. Reddick holds the lead on the top 20 on the lap 23 restart, goes on to win stage 1. Top 4 are Reddick, Blaney, Elliott, Larson. Reddick gets the lead on the lap 30 restart. Austin Cindric goes off the track. Will Brown brings out the caution with an electric issue shortly after. And then lap 35, Reddick had a slow restart that stacks up the back of the field, but he held lead, no caution, no issue, no harm, no foul. As they say, Bubba goes off in turn 10, and then just later on the same lap, Josh Berry has a bad block on Eric Jones, like something you'd see on a super speedway level. So I don't know what bro was doing respectfully, but they just had a little spin, shimmy, whatever you want to call whatever they did. They collected Waters, Keselowski, Bell, Byron, Dillon, and Truex. They all none of them had big damage. It was just one of them things like, oh, you get a little bit of damage. Oh, you get a little bit of damage. Everyone gets damage, but nothing to destroy a race car. Reddick holds the lead on the lap 40 restart. Cindric, Gregson spin, and then McDowell got tagged in avoidance on lap 40. At this point, those who didn't pit come and pit. So your top 5 are Buescher, Priest, Truex, Busch, and Allmendinger. Larson passes Reddick on his sequence. And then Buescher wins stage 2. Stage 3, no one pits. Buescher gets the lead on the lap 60 restart. Ryan Preece, he spun from 3rd. No yellow on lap 61. Then we had green flag pit stops. Where are we? Ricky Stenhouse Jr. got busted by the speeding police momentarily for a penalty. That's no good for him. Top 5 at this point were Buescher, Truex, Busch, Allmendinger, McDowell. Larson up to 3rd. Top 3 were nose to tail. Buescher fell all the way back to 3rd when Truex and Larson passed him on lap 101. Later in the lap, Larson passed Truex. Cindric spins, no caution. And then on the last lap, Ross Chastain and Kyle Busch make contact, sending Busch spinning. Martin Truex Jr., he runs out of gas coming to the line. Last car to finish on the lead lap. Crowd went insane for him, and Kyle Larson wins. So yeah, 6 out of 10, a lot of things happening. Too hard in the beginning to get a rhythm of the race. Strategy just really confusing. I'm, for one, like strategy with races. This was such a huge diversion, and Fox really didn't explain it too well of what was happening. So at the beginning, so yeah, it's kind of weird. But 6 out of 10 for me.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Let's jump into the news.
And now for the news.
We got a 4-for-1 now, as in the original version. This was a 3-for-1. In the past week, Arrow McLaren severs ties with Juncos Hollinger, so that deal where Arrow McLaren least gets to say, okay, Juncos Hollinger, you get our sponsors on the wheel well and a little bit of papaya on the car. That deal's ended. Kind of a meaningless deal in the first place from Arrow McLaren. It just helped Juncos get funding, I guess. Nolan Siegel, he was planning on racing Indy next and then heading to France to do the Le Mans testing. Neither of those things happened, as he got thrown into the Juncos Hollinger seat, replacing Agustin Canapino, who was benched by Hollinger of Juncos Hollinger and the team principal because he couldn't just get his head off of his phone. And
Agustin Canapino is loving the new Twitter update.
Yeah, and which shows that the fact that you the update is that you cannot see who liked who. And I don't know if anyone heard, but you, Agustin Canapino, get the chicken away. As we are not registering chicken, but now we are. But I do believe, it has been confirmed that he will continue with Juncos Hollinger for the remainder of the season. Nolan Siegel had been a possibility to drive that car, but Agustin, my guy, yikes. The third time of death threats and from his fans, and has done nothing to condemn them in 2 years. So yeah, you get the chicken award for just not being a good person. Yeah. So there. Good IndyCar news, as I will now eat this chicken across the room. David Malukas joins Meyer-Shank Racing starting at Laguna Seca. You have the 2 McLaren rejects driving for them now, of Felix Rosenquist and David Malukas. So yeah, good for him. He should be in the McLaren instead of a Shank car, but I do believe, I hope him and Rosenquist can whip McLaren's butt the rest of the year, because I'd like to see poetic justice. Is 2 guys got treated unfairly by a team, and now they have the chance to go beat them. I hope they do. If this was any other team, it would be the same thing. It's because I just want to see these guys do well, because they are at the end of the day fringe top 10 drivers.
I hope they do well
Yeah.
as well.
You see, I do believe they can be top drivers if given the right chance, and neither of them
I
did.
also don't think McLaren is losing any sleep over this. I think they're very happy with their driver lineup.
They're not, but they should. I think it's a huge. I think you with the short ovals coming up in the remaining. I want to say about 9 or 10 or 8 IndyCar races. David Malukas was strong at the short oval. That was what made him so great.
That's fair, but like over the course of like
Mhm.
IndyCar seasons to come, like the entire season, IndyCar, the direction they're going in as well, like less and less ovals, more road and street courses. You know, I don't think they're gonna. I don't think they're gonna regret the decision. They're
Well,
like
well,
very good.
go
Sorry,
ahead.
go ahead.
Great Zoom podcast work. Both of us
Exactly.
interrupting each other and then saying going ahead. But what I was saying with Malukas is, where Aero McLaren is at now, if they with Pato Award, I think Pato Award would be in the better position to go run well at these gateways, Nashville's and Iowa's, to beat Joseph Newgarden because he is the undisputed king of these races.
Mm-hmm.
If he had another teammate that excelled, and maybe Malukas could have won one or two of these races.
Yeah, that's fair.
And actually, Ethan,
But I just think
IndyCar has lost in from last season to this. They lost Texas, but they gained 2 Milwaukee dates and the Nashville date. That's an increase of 2 from last year. Granted, I do believe Nashville will revert to a street course.
yeah, I still think the trend is still going downwards, in my opinion, even if this year was a jump up. I still think in, you know, the not so long term, or I should say, I think soon it's going to start going down again. And even if it doesn't, like, there are still many more road and street courses, and their driver lineup like can do really great at those. Like Pato, he's one of the best drivers in IndyCar.
I'm not concerned about the 5 and the 7,
and
the 6 is what concerns me.
For chair?
Yeah, I don't.
I'm not worried.
I don't know.
I think he just needs to get adapted to the series. He's an amazing driver.
Yeah, I'll give him time, but yeah,
I buy that potential. I'm buying that stock.
Yeah, I'm not right now. I'm kind of but we'll see. I just think they could have had a much better driver in Malukas. And right now we're at, I believe, 6 road or oval races, that going down to 5 next year in all likelihood. I don't see them going below 5. I think they want to go to a mile and a half soon because that is such a different race style of racing that they could have right now, and they're not, by going to a Texas or Chicagoland or Kentucky, one of those places. I think I think IndyCar would want to go and take either one of the Milwaukee dates or one of the Iowa dates away for that.
Maybe.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, going to the Formula Uno news.
Yeah, the biggest piece of news is we have more information on the 2026 regulations. I'm basically going to be giving information from an article written by Lawrence Barretto on F1.com. So, essentially, what the FIA and Formula One are going for is more sustainable and agile cars. There's going to be increased battery. As remember, Formula One has engine and battery to make a hybrid powertrain. And the fuel going forward will be 100, or from 2026 forward, will be 100% sustainable. The cars will be supposedly more agile. They're going to be 30 kilograms lighter, and I don't really know. Doesn't seem like too much to me, but if that's all that it takes, great. Like I said, new power unit, more energy from the electrical battery, and 100% sustainable fuel. There's going to be active aero. There's going to be a push to pass like system. There will not be DRS, and that's pretty interesting to me. So the power unit is going to have a 300% increase in electrical power, going up from 120 kilowatts to 350 kilowatts of electrical power. And there's going to be 6 powertrain suppliers: Ferrari, Mercedes, Renault, Honda's returning to Formula One, Audi's going to be in Formula One, and Ford, which is in conjunction with Red Bull powertrains, will be entering Formula One. So 6 different power units. That's pretty exciting because right now there's only 3 split among the 10 teams. This is going to offer so much more variation, and I think that is really exciting. Will it end up making like some huge difference? Maybe not, but it has the chance to, which is exciting. And then one of the bigger things is the wheelbase is being reduced by 200 millimeters, which is about half a foot, and the width is being cut by 100 millimeters, which is like 4 inches or something like that. So I don't know. Again, like it doesn't seem like that huge of a decrease to me. And I'm not sure that it's going to produce as good racing as they're hyping it up to be because the changes are so small, but I could be wrong. At least it's a step in the right direction, right? But I don't know. Like, I don't think it doesn't seem to me like it's going to be some magical fix. One thing, though, that honestly could be the biggest thing and could be that magical fix is the new aerodynamics. Like the cars, they look, the prototype car that the FIA showed looks a little weird. Like the front wing, it's weird, but it's going to have active aero or adaptable aerodynamics might be a better word for it. There's going to be basically 2 different configurations, one to minimize fuel consumption and one to maximize cornering performance. And so there's going to be 2 positions for the front wing and the rear wing. The rear wing angles will be able to change and stuff like that. So to me, that kind of sounds similar to DRS, but it's not going to work exactly like DRS. DRS is basically not going to exist anymore from how I understand it. Maybe this is more similar to DRS than how I understand it, but it doesn't seem to be. And like I said, there's going to be a push-to-pass like system, which is going to be able to be used in certain areas. So, like, I don't know, there might still be trains of cars, but maybe not. We'll see. Again, I think a push-to-pass system is better. I wish it was more of a true push-to-pass system like we see in IndyCar. But again, step in the right direction. And then, the cars are going to be safer, which is amazing. The cars are going to be more sustainable, again, amazing. But like the cars are not what makes Formula One such a polluting endeavor. It's the transporting cars all around the world. But yeah, like steps in the right direction. It's going to be really interesting to see how this regulation plays out. Who nails it? Who doesn't? we now have some more information on it. It seems like it should produce better racing, but like I don't know exactly. We'll see. I forgot to mention this. Downforce will be reduced by 30% and drag will be reduced by 55%. So that makes me think there will be a lot more close action on track. But again, like who really knows until we actually see it. But yeah, that's essentially the rundown. Moving on quickly.
Hold on. I do want to say something. The front wing edges or the ends of the front wing, they look like knives.
Yeah. Cutting through that air, Andrew.
Yeah.
Like butter.
Butter on bread.
Yes, sir. Next bit of news, Yuki Tsunoda gets an extension with RB. Surprised me. Not because he doesn't deserve it. I definitely think he does. It just surprised me because it didn't seem like RB was going to take Tsunoda because they are so in love. Like the Red Bull family in general is so in love with Daniel Ricciardo. And they have Liam Lawson in the wings. Like it seemed pretty obvious to me that it was going to be Ricciardo and Lawson next year. And now Yuki's taking up one of those seats instead of, a seat elsewhere. And it's only a 1-year deal, which puts RB in a really weird spot because Sergio Perez has a 2-year deal at Red Bull. If Yuki leaves next year, they're not going to have a young junior driver to replace Sergio Perez once Perez's contract runs up because Liam Lawson isn't going to stick around for another year. And I don't think it's going to be Liam Lawson in the seat next to Yuki. I think it's going to be Ricciardo because, like I said, RB, Red Bull, they're just so in love with Daniel Ricciardo. So Liam Lawson is, I would assume, going to leave the Red Bull family, and he's probably not going to have a spot in Formula One, which is really sad in my opinion because he definitely deserves it. Yeah. And Daniel Ricciardo, he's an aging shell of himself in a team that is supposed to curate drivers, young drivers, to move up to Red Bull. So by the time that Sergio is going to have his contract run out, there might not be a good option to replace his seat. So it's just all around weird. For me, like if you're going to commit to Yuki, not just for 1 year, because he could leave next year, go to, there's a people think he might go to Aston Martin because of the Honda connection. Like I could see that happening, and that would put Red Bull in such a weird spot. So Yuki definitely deserves the extension, but it's weird, man.
Yeah.
More contract stuff. This time just kind of rumors, but the Daily Mail, so take it with a grain of salt. But they're basically saying that Ollie Behrman is going to, or him and Haas have already agreed to a contract, is what their rumor is saying. To me, I don't know if they actually know, but it seems likely, extremely likely, like it is the worst kept secret in the Formula One paddock that Oliver Behrman is going to go to Haas. He's not having the best year in F2 this year, but we know the type of driver he is. Haas thinks super highly of him. He's a Ferrari junior. There's that connection with Haas. Like, this is definitely going to happen. So keep your eyes peeled for the official announcement by Haas. We will let you know when that happens on our Instagram story. So follow the Instagram, same name as the podcast. Next rumor is that German news paper, The Blid, I don't know how you pronounce it in German. Billid? I don't know. They're saying that Kimi Antonelli and Mercedes, that's going to happen. They've reached a deal, is what they're saying. Again, this hasn't been confirmed by the team. They might be wrong. But, wow, like I don't think that Kimi is ready for that at all. Just he's so young. He's not doing insanely good in F2, but it's just Mercedes. I guess they want to mold him from such a young age. And we have a quote from Toto Wolff saying that Carlos Sainz isn't. He says we didn't want to keep Carlos waiting because he has to make the decisions himself. So he basically said that Carlos isn't in play for Mercedes. And so, yeah, that kind of means it's going to be Kimi. And remember earlier when I was talking about Sainz and Williams, it seems like that's what's going to happen when, if you ask me, it should be Sainz at Mercedes and Kimi at Williams if he's not going to spend another year in F2. But as these are just rumors, I don't want to spend too much time on it. When the news announces and we get, concrete news, I'll go more into detail about it, but keep your eyes peeled for these rumors becoming reality. Because as I've said before on this podcast, when there's smoke, there is oftentimes fire.
Yep. Moving over to did you talk about Perez in the 3-place grid job
Yeah,
yet? Or
I
okay,
did.
yeah. I would anyway. Going over to the NASCAR. Speaking of rumors, as Ethan mentioned, I've got one on my own. This is not one I don't talk about rumors often, but this is a big one. And NASCAR and Nitrocross are working to an alliance. It was one of the Joe Rogan, Seth, whatever guys saying that that this was happening. So take it with a not just a grain of salt. Take it with a salt mine full of salt. But
Salt
I
mine.
Adam, yeah. Also, Adam Stern reported on this, so there must be some sort of truth to it. But this would be interesting because there recently a lot of NASCAR drivers had a Nitrocross one-off drives with Chase Elliott, Kyle Busch being a few, and then you also had Scott Speed, who is one of their current drivers. He was a NASCAR driver at one point, Formula One driver at one point. Yeah,
He's driven everything at one point.
yeah,
And he's a very good rally driver, which, if you
yeah,
ask me, that's the hardest thing to drive. In my extremely non-expert opinion.
yeah. What have you driven?
I'm a menace at K1 speed.
Yeah, I'm just fast. I'm not a menace. I don't bully.
I haven't been to K1 speed in so long, though, man. Like,
we need to do that.
we need to do that. Someone needs to film it, and it needs to go on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, I'll make a graphic. But yeah. Anyway, going back to actual news. Not David Gilliland. I'm getting old, and this is how you know you're getting old, is when you call a driver by his father's name who has been retired for some time. Todd Gilliland, not David Gilliland,
Unk
signs
status at 18 is crazy.
a multi-year extension at Front Row. His father, David, did drive at Front Row for a while, but Todd Gilliland, this is what Front Row and Todd Gilliland need. Gillen's probably not going to get a better ride, but he is a stable, solid driver, which is exactly what Front Row needs. Someone to build around. Now they just got to figure out who's going to be driving the other two cars. Are they going to get two guys from Stuart Haas Racing, or are they going to look to other places? We'll find out and see. And then a new piece of news: RFK Racing's hashtag Stage 60 entry to return at Chicago with Joey Hand behind the wheel. Hand has driven a couple races before. He did there last year with a fifth Stuart Haas Rick Ware car. Who knows how good that was, but yeah. Actually, I take that back. I don't know if he did drive Chicago, but he did drive somewhere and did well. But anyway, Hand, solid driver in sports car land. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. And then finally, Toyota's Mike Conway withdraws from Le Mans after cycling accident. Jose Maria Lopez comes in from the GT team, and Jack Hawksworth sliding into to the GT team.
Hopefully, Mike Conway's okay.
Yeah, hopefully he'll be fine for the next WEC race. But yeah, kids, if you become a racing driver, don't go snowboarding, cycling, or skiing. That's how you get injured and miss races, and
And
may
if
or may
you're an
get
MLB
dropped by your
pitcher,
team, like David Malukas did.
and if you're an MLB pitcher, don't go rodeoing or dirt biking in the off season. I'm looking at you, Madison Bumgardner. Love you though.
Hey, you didn't have to deal with the Madison Bumgarner or the Diamondbacks did, so I don't want to hear you complain.
Yeah, I got World Series MVP Madison Bumgardner. Hell yeah.
Hey, you don't need a flex either. Let me be miserable over here as the Diamondbacks are playing, and I don't even know the score because I'm doing the podcast. Yay! I love this podcast. I don't love the Diamondbacks as much as I love the podcast. Anyway, going into the previews.
And now for next week's race previews.
24 hour of Le Mans. Last year, you had your winners were the 51 Ferrari, of course, of Collado, Giovinazzi, and Pierre Guidi. The 34 Inter-Europol competition of Costa, Scherer, and I'm going to butcher this Polish name, Schmikowski.
That was probably perfect.
And 33 Corvette of Katzberg, Keating, and Verone. So, yeah, the only team that's coming back in full is the 50 Ferrari hypercar. But we have a couple of driver changes this week. Alex Plo is the third driver for the 2 Cadillac. Them being the first time they've had a third driver all year. Jose Maria Lopez is in the 7 Toyota, as I mentioned. Norman Nato is back in the 12 Hertz Team Toyota Porsche after doing Formula E commitments. They were a 2-car team. And last race, you have Ferdinand Habsburg, Ethan's favorite Royal, is back in the 35 Alpine, replacing Jules Gunin.
Like, he is a prince. And instead of being like, oh, yeah, I could be a king one day, he goes, nah, I'm going to be a race car driver. Like, how legendary is that?
Oh, yeah, it's pretty legendary. And yeah, so going back to the changes, everyone loves them some Ferdinand Habsburg. If you want to see his full name, me try to pronounce his full name, go to another podcast where I did that earlier in the season because I've done that a couple times already. I'm not going to do it again. I'm not going to do that.
You're not gonna say Ferdinand Zvonimir Maria Baltus Keith Michael Otto Antal Bonham Leonard von Habsburg Lothringen. You're not gonna say that.
You've already done it, so you've taken my job for me. Good job, Ethan. That's the first time you said it, so I'll give you a virtual cookie emoji in our Instagram.
I totally butchered that, so
it's good enough. It's not much better than I do, because I don't know how to pronounce names, as seen with Luca Giotto and the many pronunciations
it's just like
of that.
You have Ferdinand at first, and that's a fairly easy name to pronounce. And then you have Svonimir. What?
Yeah. I did send you your cookie in the Instagram group chat as promised, Ethan.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyway, back to the entry list. Andrea Caldarelli out for Eduardo Montoya, who's back in. Formula E commitments there for Montoya, or I kept him out the last race. Harry Ticknell was doing IMSA stuff in the Proton 99. He is back for this race. Jean-Eric Verne and Stoffel Van Dorn were doing Formula E last race. Instead, They're now in the 93 and 94. Peugeot Mobiles of France. Going into GT LMGTE or 3. That's 3 actually. Too many letters. Hiroshi Hamaguchi is in for Josh Cahill in the 95 United McLaren. Ray Halfrey still subbing for Dorian Pin in the 85 Iron Dames. Couple of driver changes in the Agutis Asp Lexus. Timur Boguslavski and Kelvin Vanderland back in. They were doing things. Remoto Miata and Clemens Schmid out. And then, as mentioned, Jose Maria Lopez and Hypercar Jack Hawksworth in the sister car this time. And then finally, Satoshi Hoshino is in the 777 Aston Martin Vantage AMR GT3 Evo for Distastion Racing. Going to new entries, a couple of different entries coming in. 3 Cadillac of Sebastian Bourdais, Scott Dixon, and Renga van der Zande. You have the 19 Lamborghini Iron Lynx from Matteo Caroli, Andrea Caldarelli, and Roman Grosjean. And then finally, you also have the 4 Porsche. I skipped them, of Matthew Jaminet, Felipe Nasr, and Nick Tandy. And finally, you have the 311 Whelen Cadillac Action Express team with Jack Ayton, Pippo Durrani, and Felipe Drugovich. For LMP2 teams, they're all coming in for this race only. So what I'm going to do is just name each team. You can find the drivers on your own if you're looking for a specific driver. We have the 9 Proton. By the way, these are Orica 07 Gibsons. They could run different cars, but they're all garbage compared to the Orica, who's the best one. That's why they're all running Orica. 10 Vector Sport. 14 AO by TF. 22 and 23 United Autosports. 23 has the USA after United Autosports because America, I guess. 24 Nielsen. 25 Algarve Pro Racing. 28 IDEX Sport, which does not stand for I don't even care. 30 Duquesne Team. 33 DKR Engineering. 34 Inter Europol, the defending winners. You have the 37 and 47 for Cool Racing. And then you have the 45 CrowdStrike by Algarve Pro Racing, 65 Panis Racing, and the 183 AF Corsa. And then new entries for LMGT3, the 44 Proton Ford of John Hartshorn, Christopher Mees, and Ben Tuck. You have the 66 JMW that is a Ferrari for Giacomo Petrobili, Larry Ten Voord, and Sally Yulk. And the 70 Inception McLaren of Brendan Uribe, Ali Milroy, and Frederick Schendorf. Then you go down to the 86 GR Racing Ferrari of Ricardo Pera, Daniel Serra, and Michael Wainwright. Finally, the Spirit of Race Ferrari 155. And that is the Conrad and Johnny Lawson shared entry along with Jordan Taylor. There you have it. 2024-hour Le Mans. Field saying Porsche of the practice sessions. Let me look. You have Toyota leading the night practice. BMW leading the first qualifying session. Toyota did another, and Toyota was on top of opening practice. So is Toyota back? Question mark, question mark. We'll see. But a lot of people saying Porsche's race to lose. We'll see. Going to our friends at NASCAR, you have the Iowa Corn 300 first time. Actually, it might be 350 for the first time at Iowa for the Cup Series. Trucks and Xfinity. I had an extra idity there. They used to race there way back at the day. But for the Iowa Corn 350, we got a couple of drivers changing, and you have 15 of Kaz and the 16 of AJ Allmendinger. No, and then you also have the open entry of MBM or Power Source. No one knows what they're called these days, and they're fielding entry for David Starr. And going to Xfinity, you have the JD Motorsports cars back to their regular drivers of Graham Smithley. The extra colleague entry for Daniel Dye is back this week. 2 Joe Gibbs Racing All-Star cars have Brett Moffitt, the hometown guy, in the 19, John Hunter Nemechek in the 20. 26 Sam Hunt car has Corey Heim this week. Going down, Joey Gase for Motorsports, bringing 2 cars, 35 for Joey Gase and the 53 for driver TBA. And then a couple cars down, you've got the 92 of Ross Chastain. That's the second DGM car. And the 2 as the screen light cars will field Patrick Emmerling and driver TBA. They repaved a portion of the turns. We'll see how that goes for them. Yeah. Anyway, let's get into the picks.
And now for next week's race picks.
I have updated the sheet from last night because Ethan just decided to update his point total because I got something wrong. He didn't update the stats or anything because
Andrew,
he
no
likes
one
being
knows the
minutes.
stats. The stats are for you only.
They're perfectly explained. Like, it's not that hard.
But let's go over last week really quickly since we're going a little long. I got a point for Louis Foster in Indy Next. Jamie Chadwick won the Indy Next race, first female to win an Indy Next race in 15-something years. So big congrats to her. Cool moment. I got a point, as well as your dad getting a point for Joseph Newgarden being ahead of your pick of Alex Palou in the Road America race. Both me and you had Max Verstappen winning, 5 points to the both of us. Your dad had Charles Leclerc for some reason, no points there. I have 5 for Lando finishing 5th. Your dad has 1 for Max. I have 5 for Lando finishing 2nd. Your dad has 1 point for picking Max 2nd. As discussed earlier, Max 1, and then you had Sainz 3rd, I had Leclerc 3rd, and your dad had Perez 3rd. All of those guys DNF'd.
So it wasn't the good, the bad, and the ugly. It was the ugly, and the ugly.
Precisely. For Xfinity, Sonoma, the closest to winning was my pick of Jesse Love, who finished like 13th, I think. Yeah, I'll take it. And then your dad, his pick of Chase Elliott was the closest to winning out of the 2 picks that you and me had, Tyler Reddick and Martin Truex Jr. I'm still leading the way, 186, 149 for Andrew, 142 for the guest. And let's go over the picks for this upcoming weekend.
Yeah, as Ethan said, I'm going to win this week.
Probably because I do pretty bad at just like WEC stuff, I think, and I think you do pretty good at it.
Go to the bottom of the sheet, Ethan.
I never go to the bottom of the sheet.
Well, today you are, because I have something to show you that doesn't make me happy, but you need to know the truth.
I'm at the bottom of the sheet.
In columns A through D, rows 177 through 180.
Yep.
I am column B. What does B177 say? Ethan?
0.
I have 0 WEC points this year, Ethan.
So I'm wrong. Okay.
Yes, you are wrong. You are better. But anyway, that's gonna change this week, baby.
Nah.
I've been cooking. They call me Chef Andrew.
No one calls you that.
I have a piece of cooking equipment. I forgot which piece it was, either tongs or a spatula, that literally says Chef Andrew on it. Okay?
That doesn't make you Chef Andrew, though.
It does.
No.
It's engraved. It's
Eh,
engraved.
no.
You're just a hater for real.
That's also true.
I still love you though.
Oh.
This has gotten way too wholesome for me. Anyway, Morgan, the guest this week. Shout out Morgan. I love you too. He picked the other Ferrari, the 50 Ferrari, with I believe the 51 won last year. Anyway,
Yeah.
I'm going with the 6 Porsche. They're the team on top.
Yeah. I'm going with 12 Team Hota. They're leading the standings right now, and I didn't really know who else to pick, so I went with them.
Ethan, in our podcast run last time, you said Team Hota. They are Jota. Jota. This is not like the known Arizona animal, the javelina. This is like jelly. Or
Okay, but
jam.
okay.
Jota.
The reason I'm getting mixed up is because like the Lamborghini SVJ, the J in that is pronounced Hota. I'm pretty sure it might be Jota. I don't know. Maybe I'm just completely wrong. Whatever.
Okay.
You say tomato, I say tomato.
Well, Jota says Jota. So, anyway, let's not get caught up bogged down in the details, okay? Anyway, Morgan picking the 9 Proton team. They're a solid team in everything they enter, so I don't blame them. That's a solid pick. I'm going with the 23 United because of Ben Keating being the most OP thing to ever exist in racing.
I'm going with the 37 Cool Racing because they're cool.
Yeah. Ethan is glad that we are going on this on the second run. I know on that pick, and I will not say why. Morgan, he in LMGT3 went the 46 WRT team BMW. I'm going with the sister car 31 team WRT BMW. It's two solid cars this year. 31's had the results at the beginning of the season. If you'd asked me, I would have said the 46 would have been better, but no, it's the 31 this year, so that's why I'm picking them. Ethan, you're not going BMW.
No, 92 Manthai because they're good, very good.
Yeah.
On to NASCAR. Morgan took Austin Hill,
as he always seems to do.
Yeah, big Austin Hill guy apparently.
Yeah.
I went with Justin Allgaier because I mean he's good. I really don't know who to expect to be good at Iowa, so it was kind of just a shot in the dark for me. Not gonna lie.
Well, from your side, let's think of this logically. What food is Iowa known for?
Corn.
Yes. What is Justin Allgaier's number made out of this year in terms of what they wrap it with? It's a food. It's yellow.
Question mark?
Corn. It's corn.
Oh, okay.
See my connect. Yeah, you can search that up later. Justin Allgaier 2024 car. But I'm going with Chandler Smith. A few years ago, he had this great Iowa run in the truck series that put him on the map. So I'm tapping my phone for no reason. So yeah, I think he's going to win there. And no one knew who Chandler Smith was. It was always I think it was like Harrison Burton in that car or something. Might have been whoever was after Harrison Burton. But anyway, that's not important. But Chandler Smith was in that car randomly for race, and he just randomly ran well. So yeah, him. Cup Series. New track, so not a lot to gain to see who's good, who's not.
Exactly.
Morgan going Denny Hamlin, a good. He excels at Phoenix and Richmond, the two closest tracks to this, so solid pick. I'm going with Ryan Blaney, not because I was wearing a Ryan Blaney shirt yesterday when I did the podcast. He's due for a win. He's won at Iowa before. Defending champion, going without a win. We're already into the USA portion of the schedule, so yeah.
Yeah, I went with Kyle Larson because again, there's not a whole lot to go off of. So just going with a strong driver who, it's a logical pick in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is why I picked.
Go ahead.
No, I'm done.
So, episode 23, Ethan Ignatowski and me, we've completed, and we'll see you next time.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, people of the world.
Yes, goodbye.
To me, it looked like he actually lost the wheel.
The wheel for Ross Chastain is still and perfect.
Wheel on the track.
Did you leave the wheel loose?
You picked the fine time to leave me loose, wheel.